it seems like my sound insulation hasn't done very much to reduce background noise, so I'm probably just going to remove it. My poor laptop must be cooking. Now, I have not done very much productive in the last 12 hours, except think about what I'm going to have to do. Thinking about this bloody button to toggle the guides has led me off down a long process of rethinking the GUI. I'm pleased with the way it looks. I have spent a long time faffing around with fonts. This is about as good as I've found. I've had to slightly modify almost all the fonts. Didn't have a big enough space. And many of them, the lowercase j was just, I'm using a really simple bitmap font drawing process, which has the benefit, I assume, I don't know, maybe it's pointless benefit of being, fast and simple. But the spacing is just the width of the letter. And almost always, j's, lowercase j's, I trimmed several pixels off that one, and it looks okay now, I think. I also went back to just positioning the letters by floats. I played around with various combinations, and different combinations had different benefits, but ultimately the letters were visibly appearing in a slightly different position to everything else. I could have fixed everything else, so it was all appearing at ints. But actually, that's not my instinct. It's the slight sort of, I don't know how to put it. To me, the wobbliness is actually a sign that it's working. And this is a low resolution screen. I did flip back to my full desktop resolution, and it looks fine, I think. I accept that when I'm using a bitmap font, I'm going to have the mipmap filtered effect, and I find it cozy enough. Maybe if a lot of people find it really distressing, that's bad, but anyway. For the time being, I'm pretty happy with the font, certainly compared to how it was. But this layout, when I flip back to my natural resolution, just standard 1920 by 1080, I was reminded that while at this moment I'm struggling to think about exactly where to pack things in, because I'm thinking there may be a few more things to go in, when I'm back in I don't want to change resolutions while I'm recording. I should do a quick bit of recording in high res, just to record for myself the difference. In that resolution, there's lots of space. Too much space. This is a problem with this layout. The benefit of this layout is that I feel like I'm occupying a slightly less valuable space in that we've got a widescreen display. I realise often you'll be rendering widescreen images, but this widescreen image fits inside this display all right. So I feel like I have more space horizontally, and being able to make a larger number of horizontal buttons means having a larger number of buttons which are just text, which is, it has benefits. Don't have to bother drawing icons. It's clear, or clearer, what buttons do. But of course, they take up more space. The downside of this arrangement is I sort of have this big bit of blank space which is going to change size. If there was an arrangement which was along a bar, then first off, this gadget could be the thing that resizes. This could do with being longer anyway to offer more detail on the quick sort of, search. And if this was the gadget that was resizing along the top, that would be an acceptable thing, more acceptable than this. The problem, of course, is this is a very limited space to fit any wide buttons. Making a toolbar along the top, I would say, makes icons necessary, which I can't really be bothered with. Well, I could do a quick set of icons. but they're not ideal either, and probably means more buttons you click that open a new box, which maybe isn't the end of the world. For example, at the moment I'm displaying this output information, and when I change this, this changes. Doesn't, there's no reason. This could just be the contents of a box that gets opened by a button. But really, in some ways, I prefer seeing the information. It's a quandary. It has held me up. I don't mind being held up in this way because I kind of like thinking about these things, and I want to make it fairly right. I don't want to try and spend weeks or even really days trying to make it perfect. I kind of, by the end of today, say, I want to have decided what it's going to look like and where I'm going to put things. Even if that means quite a serious change of shifting things to a toolbar at the top. But, well, if I was going to do that, what would it involve? Like, what would be the headings? What would I want to be an icon form? And what would need to be a button that opened another window or a box that allowed you to edit some sensible group of options? I've got a slight grouping here, but it's not really it could be better. It could be grouped more generally into editing and output. There's more output stuff, but this and this belong in editing. Hiding the guides belongs in editing. Probably a couple of other things. Hiding or showing the frame. I could probably think of a couple of other things. The more I think about it, the more I think I don't have a justification for using this layout. As much as I like seeing all the text and all the information, this is just too much wasted space on the screen. And it's much more serious when it's even 1920 by 1080. It's just a huge gap. Pointless. The other option, I suppose, is that I go for a pair of toolbars. I can go for one down the side and one along the top. This is how people, I guess, end up with that arrangement, is that once you eliminate all the kind of downsides of doing it every other way. A toolbar down the side has to be icons, a toolbar along the top, maybe could have some words in it. Maybe a toolbar down the side could be related to editing, or I could, make one or the other, so that a toolbar down the side had buttons for the snapping. Toolbar down the side, if the toolbar down the side is for editing and this is connected to editing, then that's not sensible. Although, to be fair, this position slider, you could argue it spans the pair, because when you render a still image, it's based on this position. So, with that in mind, I suppose the position slider could go along the top. And I could, if the position slider was up here, and I could have the position setter, so that if you do want to determine a position at this end, effectively forming the top of a column which was to do with the editing options. This column resizing, the number of editing options won't exactly change much, but if it resizes, it's not so much wasted space if it's a narrow column of icons. I find it a little bit hard to imagine how I arrange the grid length and angle icons so that, well, I suppose individually they could just open a little, I don't know how I'd be displaying them. I suppose I could also display, well, I think and I do not know. I could display little high buttons with an icon representing the type of snapping, grid length or angle, and the word on or off written underneath it. And clicking on that button could open a tiny little volatile just with a tick box and a value with an OK and cancel. And you click away and it cancels. Man, this is a lot of faffing, but I'm starting to lean towards this. The other things to do with editing are what happens to the currently selected thing. Remove, and really you should be offered different options. See, depending on what's selected at the moment. I can effectively have a point selected and move this. That makes no sense in a weird way. So I sort of prefer the idea of the toolbar being at the left hand side. The problem I have with that is that more or less I'm committing to having the project button at the top left where a menu is. Don't like the narrowness of my menus, but I'm not going to fuss about that just now. Actually, it would be quite easy to make an option that made them as wide as whatever the thing you clicked on was, which at least would make these things which look more like buttons than menus, or are actually kind of more like drop-down lists than menus. Anyway, these things will scroll if needed, if I happen to make a million draw modes. Having the project untitled up at this top left, could probably be alright. What if there was a top bar which was as high as that button and down here? I just don't like the idea of the thing that's at the top of here being a different width to the toolbar. Is that too idiotic of me? I suppose I could just define the pair of them and I could shift it from left to right. Or I could make a button at the bottom of the toolbar that shifted it to the other side. Anyway. So yeah, a pair of toolbars, but what's in each? Because I think that in the top it's going to have to be, well, this has to be one thing. The greater length is necessary, and the position will have to be at one or the other end of this. And I guess preview recursions could or should be at the top. It is sort of separate to the snapping, the points. What's the other thing? Hide or remove guides. Well, now that I think about it, I wonder if I can even get away with not using icons. This font is more compressed. If I just made this a lot narrower and kind of arranged things more vertically, maybe I should just use icons. Doesn't matter. I won't think about that just now. The main thing is to have this vertically and think about what actually is going into a left hand and what is going into a top. In the top, position and slider. The reason I'm doubtful about the number of recursions is that also in the top I imagine being the output or some of the output options. think that in the output options that would be along the top would be the width, height and recursions, a draw mode button, and the color button, whether it's gradient or a paper and ink pair. 1, 2, 3, 4, combination of 5. And these things below that are what are related to the type of draw mode. And that I will put in an options section, I guess. I suppose that it could all be hidden in the draw mode button. A single draw mode button like this could open a window to edit the draw mode, which, boy oh boy, yeah, which had a drop down list at the top, and depending on what draw mode you selected, a different panel was displayed. Yeah. This does make more sense. It's quite a tedious reorganization, and it's easier to talk about than to do. As for the render buttons, well, there are, I suppose, a few other render options I want, and things I want to change about the way these render, for that matter. And this is a render option, and these are render options. One of them doesn't do anything yet, but will be, I think. But man, the problem, or not, it's not a problem, but it's a, well, no, it's not really a problem. Well, I suppose I can just have a render button and a render options button. The render option button can open a window which actually just displays both video and image options, and like video specific, image specific, and both. And inside there can be copy render. It can be a bit more expensive, I suppose. So let me just get a quick idea about this. Apparently, my tablet has been behaving itself. So, I say my tablet's been behaving myself. My drawing hand probably hasn't. Basically, I want to make a kind of cartoon editor. I have to say, trying out loads and loads of fonts, the thing I was struck by was how pleasing I found the most inappropriate fonts. Whoa, wobbles, doesn't matter, that's pretty good in a way. So I need the project button. I need the recursions, the preview recursions button. I need the position button. I need the position slider. I need the draw mode button. I need the color button or buttons, which will occupy the same space anyway. I need the render button, which will contain a menu of things to render, and I need the render options. Am I seriously saying that on top of that I want output width and height will go in render options? They will have to, and recursions. Yeah, oh, look at that. I bet I can't fix it just by doing this. I stand corrected. It's annoying that in order to fix my pen, what I actually have to do is pull the end off it in a way that it was never designed to do, but hey ho. I hope I haven't been switching my mic off all this time. Okay, so I think that these output width and height and recursions will have to go inside render options. When I see this number of things and think that's just for the top bar, I think yeah, I just think but I actually kind of quite like having this set of things on the top bar. Okay. And in the sidebar it will, well, I'll need the grid, length, and angle. Now, do I need the actual value and on off? Or do I find some way of compressing those two things? Or do I just make the value, the on off, sort of apparent and make the value hidden inside a button that you push? Do I just display a little symbol and underneath it either the value or the word on off? That might be the thing I do. But given how tiny these words are, like that would be the length. Length. The problem is trying to draw a tiny little icon that somehow represents length. I mean, you know, I can imagine what these icons would look like for grid, length and angle. But how small am I imagining them being on the screen and still making sense? I suppose I can just try some things out. Yeah, okay, I'll do icons for those when I think about it. This arrangement. I need those. Those need to be kind of ever present. Then for points, like then there's another section, another panel to this vertical section, whose contents will change, but one thing is if a corner point is selected, a corner control point, it needs to have remove loop flag and add before and after. Now, what do I think about add before and after? Again, they can be made into icons with strange little symbols. Can I imagine what they will look like? Not really, but that could be it. Yeah, well, loop. Oh man. I suppose could be an animating icon. I could just change the icon depending on the loop value. Remove can always be the classic thing I just failed to draw. The classic X. That is for when a point is selected. For when also things that need to be on screen all the time, speaking of, there's like show guides. How do I say show guides? How do I say show guides in an icon? Show guides. It's actually like show all controls, but what the hell? And also show frame. Those two I think just need to be on screen all the time. I'm starting to imagine maybe those along with the grid options would be at the bottom, then this changeable, because the look at it going crazy again. The other possible set is that it might not be a control point you've got selected. You might, even though it's not the case at the moment, this is how it will be. It might be the case that you selected the part of the frame, and that cannot display any of these things, or shouldn't. It should display an option to come, and the option to come would be like, as long as you have the frame selected, it's also something like, well, it depends how it depends how cheap I want to be really with the frame animation. It could also be add before and after without a remove. With a loop flag, yeah, it could be add before, after, and loop flag. There are, I don't know, there are different ways of doing the frame animation. I was thinking that a really kind of maybe just too cheap and lazy thing to do is when one of these corners is selected, then just the same way when one of these corners is selected, you get before, after, and loop, and you can add a trail of points to each of these corners. That'll allow them to move, scale, rotate all through the image. The only problem is it'll do it in a way that's really pretty kind of unintuitive, but you know what, I think I'm going to do it that way first because I've got most of the code, and I could do just some code replication initially, and I could probably have a little think about the generality of points on paths, but one way or another there'll be this other aspect, but that's okay, it won't occupy different space. Figure out which of these takes more and just make sure they're or make sure there's reasonably enough space for that. Like, I can imagine gadgets for these with small buttons. I can imagine gadgets for these and for this. It's more difficult for me to imagine, like, man, if I could make this a little narrow toolbar with words, it might just be so much easier. Like to be able to have the word snap and show and guide and frame. I think I'm going to do it. I think it's going to be words. Yeah, it's going to be words. I hate to say it, because actually when I do start to think about it, the thought of little icons seems, seems attractive. Man, being able to print vertically would be useful as well now. I do have to make some changes to the printing. All these things I need to do. It's so overwhelming in a way is the answer. The answer, the word, the description. But I have to just stay calm and think, first things first, this arrangement. Now, I'm going to make some icons. I'm just going to bite the bullet. Am I really going to do that? Yeah, I am. Let me have a look at this again. This, I'll figure something out. Show guides and show frame. Again, icon and word buttons. It's not a thing I've thought of often, but if they've got to be in this little vertical arrangement, the word on off doesn't take much space horizontally. Or yes no. Or show hide. So if I can come up with an icon that represents the frame and an icon that represents the guides, which I probably can, and I might actually have a use for it over here as well, as a little heading for whatever is selected. Okay, so, well, in that case, I think I'm kind of coming to decisions, and yes, I can imagine these things being along the top. Project, preview recursions, position, the position slider, draw mode, and these things need words, I feel more as well. The draw mode button, which will open the draw mode options window, and the render options. Yeah, yeah. Which, and the color buttons. Just let me have a quick little think about project everything I have is becoming poor. Where do I actually imagine the colors? I actually imagine render and render options being at the end. Color button, draw mode button, and slider. Draw mode, color, render options, render, and then there'll be a cancel render button up here. Okay. So let me have a quick little new go down as well. It's kind of nice how little everything uses when they're minimized, including the monkey code. I'm sure I can change it. If I put my mind to it, I can force it to take up time even when it's minimized. Doing something stupid. Okay. Right, I'm going to make a new project. And no, I'm not. I'm going to open GUI icons.png. Here I am in... I don't like so many things about this. GUI icons. This gets put into the assets folder. I've come around to the idea that this is okay. So if I had a compiled version of this program, there'd be an assets folder, I guess, with GUI icons, GUI font, and chessboard. And there's also a file in there which is guifont.fnt, which is the font information. And I'd know that if I wanted to put another GUI in, I could just replace these files. No, I got another font and I could just replace these files. And if I wanted multiple fonts, I can just add them in code, but that's something I'd be doing in code anyway. So it's fine. The main thing is that it automatically will combine these two files. So there's GUI icons. So I can use just over half this space. There is a file, there is a part of another file I want though. And it's away back in code, no recursor, work, man, GUI update. Yeah, it's this thing. Is there a way to copy layer? Or I suppose I can just do copy, and then in here insert a new layer. Oh man, so many options. No, this will be called back, and it'll be shifted down here, and in it I will paste that. This I will eschew, discard changes. This I will save as recursor work GUI recurse icons work. So I'm not going to use my tablet for this because it's been a long time since I used GIMP, and I know the tool I want to use, and it's not about drawing freehand, thank goodness. Where should I think about putting this? Like, loads of these, the only reason I really kept these is because they were down and out of the way. I don't need them, or I've hardly any use for them. But I won't get rid of them yet. I will just start adding things, I think, here. This is kind of daft, actually, isn't it? I should be more rigorous about it, like get them all down the bottom and work up, or all at the top and work down. I'm going to start here with my new ones. And I'm going to go for the Nightmare Paths tool, which I just can't remember. Design, edit, alt move, okay. Right. What are some icons that I need? I need a grid icon. A grid icon I probably don't need this one for. I will just decide how wide a pixel is, and I think a pixel is like 4. Let me show the grid. That's a bad grid. Really, the options are quite silly. 4. Intersections. Crosshairs at intersections. 4. Like, there's a problem here. Why is that like that? Every other one. Did I just make an error? And is it too high or is it too small? Right, I'm in the back layer. Give me that. Okay, well. Oh. just guessing here. Okay. That better turn out to be right. I can very quickly check. Yes. No? No, right, that's okay. It is now. Right. Okay. So, if these things are 4 wide, then across 64 there are 16. So if I want to have 2 things away from 16, that leaves 14. 14 doesn't divide up exactly, so they're not going to be... That's okay, really, isn't it? And then what is it? It's a shift to add. That is 4 and I... Yeah, that'll do. And shift to add again. And shift to add again. Oops. Shift to add again. And I will fill that with white. And the way this works is that I just make all my icons white, and then there's a flag I can tick which says icons in this gadget or whatever take on the color of the font in the gadget. So you can have colored icons if you want, but I want icons that will change color according to the context. Like they'll be dark if the font of that icon is dark, and go if the font of the gadget's dark. So if the gadget becomes inactive, the icon will take on an inactive color. So, oops. That will do for a grid for now. Another thing I need is a ruler, which again I probably won't need that one for. I'm just getting prepared for using that one because... right, so I feel like a ruler kind of... Should it run horizontal or should it run vertical? Should I snap to grid? Probably. I will. I suppose maybe I'll try a ruler running vertical. And I'll just see exactly how neat I can get away with 3 at either end. Okay, I think that'll do. And what happens? Oh, I've made a mistake. It's not a bad mistake, I'll be able to fix it in a sec. So I need something like this. Oh, go away, snapping. Oh no, this is all I need. In fact, I need less than that. That. But yeah, the mistake I've made is this. Can I use this to get this? No? Damn you. What about by this? This? Yeah. No, not that. Man. And I never quite understand these either. And this? No, not that. This. Why would you say that this is okay and that goes all over that? That is obscene. What else is it selected there? Man, oh man. was an easier way to zoom. Nothing is ever easy. I make the threshold absolutely zero. How on earth did you decide that that's what I just selected? You just don't see there, that is, yeah. I know why. Because of stupid grid snapping. Thank you. God. Right. No, this is what I want now. Oh, select all. Selecting the back. Give me this. Put it here. Right. Okay, now I am happy again. There is a kind of ruler. God. Now, I have definitely, I'm sure, the joy of this, which I just cannot remember at all. Is that a good place to start? Here. I can edit all this afterwards, so I suppose I should just start with an absolute. How do I join you up again? That's selecting multiple at once. No, how do I remove you? Oh man. I want to join you. I want to select multiple of you. Okay, I'm gonna have to learn, obviously, how to use this again. Yeah, I want the key that gets rid. Control fucking X. Delete. No, didn't want to do that. Have I been deleting stuff all over? No. Man, okay. I really used to be better with this tool than I am now. What can I say? Escape. Click, drag to move the enter. Try control. Click, drag moves the handle around symmetrically. Try shift. Click, drag moves the anchors around. Yes. Click, drag to move the handle around. Try shift. Okay. What about control? Shift makes that happen. Control lets me do this. Alt moves the whole bloody thing every time, wherever I grab it. What shift? Shift is that. Control is that. Control always brings up that. Shift allows me to add that. And what about, and shift takes it away. Shift takes it away. What if I want to, okay, shift makes that happen. So I can fucking try and undo my decisions, except that what hope do I have? Okay. Okay. What about deleting the point, eh? Control Shift, there. Control Shift, there. If this is selected, what happens if I do that? If that's selected, what happens if I do that? It just becomes selected. If this is selected, what happens if I do Control, there? Got there. Kinda. Right. And so here it's Control Shift. Now, snap to grid. Why do you think I would be wanting to do that? Why would I be wanting, like, to do that? What on earth do you think I'm trying to do here? Why don't you just go away? I can't. I'm sure this is really going to be fascinating viewing for myself in the future. Like, why is it? Why on earth would it think? Now I have to delete this as well. And it just doesn't think I can delete any of that. The whole line can go, but no, not this, because this is something I'm desperate to add a bunch of detail to. Insane. Alt moves everything as always. Shift. No, it knows it knows I fucking want to add something. Edit. Can't edit those. Move. Moves the whole thing. Design. That is really like pushing it as far as I'm concerned. I can remove this and this. What I don't understand is why many things. Don't understand why I can't remove that. Or this. Or this. Can't move this. God. All I can do is add and add and add. And I don't believe I just had to start again. Man, this has been a tedious learning experience. Now, how do I really avoid it giving me any extra curves? Like, where is it I'm clicking? Around the outside. In the middle, I get that. I click around the outside, I get this. Here, I get that. Or I can remove that, but I can remove that and that. Okay, I gotta take care here, obviously. And honestly, this is not going to be very easy to draw. And I should probably not use the snapping tool. Because that obviously is totally incorrect. And as is that, and as is everything going to be, as long as I'm snapping to the grid. But as long as I'm not snapping to the grid, click, drag to move anchors. Click, drag to move component around. is just giving me, okay, well, fine, if this is, the whole thing's a component, then okie dokie. Man, this has just been really pretty friggin' miserable. No, I do not want that. It looks awful. And I don't really want to get, like, what about my other snapping? Snap to guides. Aren't very many good guides around here. I kind of feel this is going to look really bad. Just with me just adjusting it like this. I wish I had my own angle snaps in a way. Oh, you horrible, horrible thing. No, let's just not forget it. It's rubbish. I'm going to use the snapping and I'm going to do something different. No. No. Like, what is it think I'm trying to do? No. Oh, what do you think you're doing there? I guess I'll just get rid of this one as well. This is just like too... it's hard to believe that... Oh, I know why. What, why are these things so bloody hard to grab? I can feel my will to live draining here. God knows what it's going to be like when I watch this back. Did I go too far there? I didn't, apparently. Man. But this could be higher. If there was some way to unselect things. Right, that is, well, this is what I'm going to use. I'm going to take away that top dit. But this is what I'm going to use. Is it? Is this seriously? Do I want to just expand it out to be the full size? Yeah, I suppose I've done that with everything else, haven't I? Yeah, I haven't wasted pixels, so I'll do it with this. Cannot believe it took me that long to make something so utterly lame. But this tool is so useful and I'm so bad with it. I don't feel like it's a very good kind of arc. I feel like it should be. Like, what happens if I just go the whole hog? Yeah, it goes rubbish. I'll go halfway. That'll do. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Okay, well, look, I can do this better now. Oh, no, no, no. You. No. How do I get the little gadget? No. There you go. I knew I could sort of figure it out. No. Why on earth? And what on earth is that? See my confidence, how quickly. Now that's just done something wrong. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Why don't you really understand what it is I'm trying to do? What? And I pushed Z, so now that's me totally lost everything. I don't like having to do that to get these widgets. That's not a satisfying thing to do. Selection from path. Fill. Fill. Well done, me. Could have used a quarter circle. Anyway. Ugh, that is no use, is it? It's really no use. Like, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to come back to this horrible thing. I'm going to click there, and there, and there, there, and there. Selection from path. Delete. Went a bit far there, probably. Doesn't matter. It's better. Okay, right. An hour and 2 minutes, and basically what I've done today is designed 3 icons, and I'm not that happy with any of them, but never mind. Ugh, tedium. Well, I apologise to my future self, but I will persevere. I will draw some more icons.